No. See. Good evening and welcome to everybody to the Economic Development Committee meeting of Central Coast Council, Tuesday the 5th of August 2025. I remind councillors and all those present that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public. So please be mindful of your actions and your comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in Council's archives. Please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to silent. Filming and photography are not permitted in the meeting. Anybody observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. I now declare the meeting open at 5:01 p.m. Now, acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. We pay our respects to Darkinjung country and elders past and present. We recognise the continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I have one apology for the members for tonight, which is Councillor McQuaid. He is sick and will not be attending the meeting. We do have one committee member online, and so a request has been received from Councillor McGregor to attend this meeting by audio-visual link in accordance with clause 6.21 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Councillor McGregor has also requested to join. Therefore, I move the following procedural motion: that the committee approves the request by Councillor McGregor to attend the Economic Development Committee meeting on the 5th of August 2025 at 5 p.m. by audio-visual link because he is unable to attend in person due to work commitments. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neal. Now put the motion. All those voting in favour of the motion, please raise your hand and keep it raised. Unanimous. Disclosures of interest. I'll now ask committee members to disclose any conflict of interest that they may have in items on tonight's agenda. Firstly, myself, I confirm that I do not have any conflicts. Councillor Smith.
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Mooland.
No interest, Mr. Chair.
Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Neal.
Nothing to declare.
Thank you all. Item 1.3, confirmation of minutes. For a mover for the recommendation as per the motion of confirmation of minutes. Moved Councillor Mooland, seconded Councillor Neal. Put the motion. All those voting in favour of the motion, please raise your hand and keep it raised. Unanimous. 1.4, items resolved by exception. From my point of view, there's only a couple of items on the agenda. I think we'll just move through the agenda as is. Agreement? Thank you. Item 1.5. Now, call for Elizabeth York, Policy and Regional Director of Hunter and Central Coast Urban Development Institute of Australia. Come up, Elizabeth, in the presentation on the UDIA for Central Coast. Thank you.
Something that
Up here, you're up.
it just takes a minute, Elizabeth. Where you actually and where do I point it to you? Or you could just click it. It's fine. I don't mind.
So just flick it up.
Okay, a second. So thank you, John. So to everybody here, my name is Elizabeth York. I'm UDIA's Regional Director for the Central Coast region. We also have a separate Hunter chapter, and I also manage that chapter as well. Firstly, thank you very much for allowing us to come and present today. I'm also joined by Anthony Oliver from Beveridge Williams over here. Put your hand up, Anthony. Anthony is the Vice Chair of UDIA's Central Coast Committee. And Allison Bassford is our chair from Space Urban, a board company, and she sends her apologies, would have liked to have been here, but couldn't join us today. Thank you also, John, who was a speaker at UDIA's last luncheon on the Central Coast, where we had the 24-hour commissioner come and we talked about economic development and the importance of that for the Central Coast. So thank you, John. We thought it was just a really good opportunity to come and present to you all with the remit of the economic development aspect of Central Coast Council about what UDIA does, who we are, what we're focused on doing here on the Central Coast, and how we work with council. So that's the opportunity here today. The Urban Development Institute of Australia, it's a statewide organization. We're actually a federation, a national federation. We also have some folks in Canberra representing us nationally, but we're really focused on New South Wales and regional outcomes. We have a Central Coast chapter. All of our members are state-based, but we've got people here on the Central Coast who are very interested in what's going on in the Central Coast. So we have a Central Coast Committee that I manage. And as I mentioned, Anthony is our vice chair, and that's made up of several, there we go. These individuals who represent industry here on the coast. Now, these are not all of our members, obviously. We've got the likes of A-Land and Urban Property Group and Daycorp and, Alcyon and those that big apartment developers and Alum, Dark and Young, sort of others that are delivering greenfield and also, Space Urban and others who are delivering industrial lands as well. And then a whole heap of consultants and other professionals. And also Central Coast Council is a member of UDIA. So we definitely, that's another reason to come here today and present to you so that you're all aware of that membership and that we can work together in trying to deliver good outcomes for the coast. We are also a member of what we're now loosely calling ourselves the Peak Bodies Alliance. So this is sort of an loose industry coalition that is with Business New South Wales, RDA, Central Coast Industry Connect, Property Council, ourselves, Housing Industry Association, and the Central Coast Leadership Forum, sort of coming together to try to have a coordinated industry voice so that you as councillors understand what industry most values and priorities for growth on the coast. So we hope that that's helpful to you. We've recently put out this particular document, which is a infrastructure investment guide for the Central Coast. And it just has a number of key priorities that we are taking to both federal and state government to try to get investment for infrastructure on the Central Coast. So working together for things like that. So what are we most focused on here on the Central Coast? We put this action plan together early this year. It's really about trying to deliver on the Central Coast. So we're all about infrastructure delivery. We're about efficiencies of getting DA approvals and the broader strategic planning for growth. And we also have a key focus on revitalization of Gosford as well. So just sort of get down into the nitty gritty of that. On the infrastructure, in addition to this investment guide that we put out with our Peak Body Alliance, a lot of this was based on a report that UDIA put out last year. We call our Building Blocks Report. So we worked with ADW Johnson last year to put that out, which really just highlighted the water, sewer, power, and roads that are required, call it enabling infrastructure, to unlock the pipeline that's in your that's here for development on the Central Coast. So that's both for housing and employment lands. And we documented with those projects that are already in the pipeline what their needs are. Somewhere around $250 million in infrastructure needs to be delivered over the next few years. And some of that is on the developer, Some of that is on council, some of that is on state and federal government. So there's a series of, I guess, sort of funding sources that would come from. But we hope that that's a very useful evidence-based document to help people understand how to unlock the pipeline and support the pipeline to actually deliver. So we'll keep updating that. It's already slightly outdated. You know, we've had some announcements from state government to deliver some of the roads and things, which is really great. We'll just keep that updated and work with you all on that. Another key aspect here on the Central Coast that's a really tricky one to navigate is getting biodiversity approvals. Now, UDIA is really, really strong in this area where we're trying to get really good environmental outcomes, but at the same time, we need to be able to navigate through those approval processes, which unfortunately, under sort of state planning, the Biodiversity Conservation Act, and the sort of grinding gears up against the Environmental Planning and Approvals Act, Assessment Act, very, very difficult to sort of navigate those. There's a whole lot of range of interpretations and subjectivity in the BC Act. It's just hard. It's hard to get through. So we've been doing a lot of work on that with DQ, the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment, and Water. Doing some reforms for Biodiversity Conservation Act have been over the last couple of years. They're engaging with industry groups as well as environmental groups as well, trying to improve the way that act works, and we're working very closely with them. Trying very hard to work with this council as well to try to find ways to navigate through it. You would also all be aware that the Department of Planning right now is leading an effort to produce what's called a Central Coast Strategic Conservation Plan, and that would bio-certify a number of development sites on the Central Coast. Been working on that for 6 years. We've all been waiting with bated breath. A number of proponents have proceeded with DAs rather than wait. But we are told that they will be exhibiting that sometime in the next month or two. So that's good. And hopefully by early next year, we will have a strategic conservation plan for the Central Coast. That will answer that question for a number of key sites, but it will not answer the question for all the sites. And therefore, we need to work with council to try to work through how we can get to those approvals so we get good outcomes for the coast on the environment, but also allow us to deliver the housing and the jobs that the coast needs too. So that's a key bit we really want to work with this council on. Another key bit is related to that. It's the council planning and assessment. You would have heard from a lot of industry that DA approval takes a very long time on the Central Coast. We've been working, and I'd like to acknowledge Luke Nichols here today. Thank you, Luke, and Andrew and Shannon as well. We work really well with your staff. They're really good people. They're trying very, very hard. There's processes potentially here that could be improved. There's some structural things potentially that could assist in helping us to get more efficient outcomes. So we'd love to work with you all on that as well. And then that other key piece is just promoting Gosford revitalization. UDIA and our other industry groups feel that we're at a moment now where we had the government architect came in and did a whole heap of planning back in 2018, 2019. It's probably a refresh. I know that council's sort of investing in some transport work coming up this year, which is really great. We feel we need a more coordinated effort there. And it's been noted by our members that it doesn't seem necessarily the high priority of this council to work on the revitalization of Gosford. At least you're sort of not seeing it in terms of, high on the agenda, not really being talked about very much. So just sort of offer that as industry feedback. We would love to see more sort of talk from council about.
You mean Gosford CBD or Gosford Waterfront?
Gosford CBD. Specifically. And the waterfront as an aspect of that, and very important. We are aware of HCCDC is also a member of UDIA, and so we work with them on a number of aspects. Sort of what they're going to be releasing soon. I think more effort needs to go into all of that. John's given me the time to move on. I won't get through all of this, but we recently made a a submission to the employment land strategy that this council went through, and I encourage you all to read our submission. Hopefully we've offered some good ideas to improve that. Our key, maybe criticism is the right word, but we feel that there's a fundamental flaw in it because the background report analyzes the serviceability of your employment lands pipeline, but it only looks at the availability of water and sewer, whereas power and roads are just as important as well. I know why they did that. It's not a criticism of Hill PDA and the others who did it. They did it because that's the way the Department of Planning has always measured that, because and the reason they've done that is because that's the only data that they have access to. But we can do better. So I think we don't really understand what our pipeline is without doing that full serviceability analysis, and we would encourage council to go back and do that. And then we had a number of other recommendations in there that speaking with Luke and Shannon about as well. But I think it was a good, solid document. There's just a few things I think that could be done to improve on that one. And then the last bit was I spoke about increasing planning efficiency. We have a number of ideas that we just kind of brainstormed on. And have shared these with John and Luke and others. I think we would really value the opportunity to sit down and maybe do some workshops with council on some good ways in which to bring more efficiency into the process and allow better collaboration between the applicant, the proponent, and council, with an outcomes-focused approach to trying to get a resolution to a site. So instead of being process-driven, really love to see council be more outcomes-focused. And we think maybe there are a few tools that could be added to the toolbox that might assist in that effort. So that's really what we're focused on. We just really want to be our partner in success. We want to help. We're not here to, pave the coast. We're here to bring the housing and the jobs that the coast needs and bring it in a way that is planned, makes sense, and that we can do it efficiently so that industry actually does want to come and invest in the coast and help in your economic development. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. First question from me. We ran a number of months ago now the first developer forum that the Mayor put on. Nicholas wasn't here at the time, but any feedback from that first forum and what our members may expect from our next forum as a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. So first feedback is thank you for putting that on. It was really, really well received, and I thought it was really well run. We liked that the questions that were posed and the ability to offer some feedback. And it set the scene, so it was good. It was really, really, really well done, I think, as a first. What we would like to see in the second is more interaction, I think, more of a workshop type of event instead of sort of showing up and being spoken to. I think we'd like a little more opportunity for the industry participants to offer their own ideas. But and really encourage you to do 2 a year. I think that would be really great. It's just it'd be a really, really good way for council to demonstrate to industry that you want to work with industry to get good outcomes. So super welcome, and really hoping you do another one this year.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other questions, members?
Can I ask, does the UDIA have a policy position in relation to climate change and biodiversity? Because I know, you've mentioned biodiversity as a bit of a barrier. So does the UDIA have policy positions on climate change and biodiversity?
So, I mean, they can be intertwined, obviously. So our policy position really is that we just want to see good outcomes. Right. I mean, our focus really is on being able to deliver pipeline within the context of, sort of also getting a dual outcome, as it were, but just trying to navigate through that.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's a no.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think we have sort of a paragraph stating.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good. But I'd be interested to know what you would, if we did do something like
that. Well, no, I don't know. I guess I'm asking you. I mean, firstly, accepting the science and the issues would be a good starting point, but then how do you work with those limitations or those, I guess, future parameters yet.
Yeah, our big picture answer to that would be, we would really like to see strategic outcomes there.
Okay.
We could have, actually, we could have 5 hours on that one. It's really.
Maybe it'll be at the developers forum.
Councillor
Unlikely.
Eaton.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Elizabeth. Just wondering what you see or what you know is happening at a state level. I mean, reputedly, we've got the most complicated planning system in the world. So there's nothing council can do about the system per se. We have to work within it. But, are you aware of anything that's happening to kind of make it a bit more user-friendly maybe, or a bit more, streamlined?
Yeah, look, potentially, there's been some talk recently about some planning reform. We have been told that we will see something later this year, but it's not, don't hold your breath. It's not going to be transformative by any means. But again, our key push to state government is to simplify, right? To be strategic outcomes and to be outcomes focused, really, as opposed to this procedural process focused. And to us, that's the biggest problem with the EP&A Act, is every time we step in to try to solve something, it's kind of like whack-a-mole, and then something else, you create a new problem. And we just keep adding to this act, and it's way too complicated. We'd love to strip it down and just say, what are we trying to achieve here, and work it that way. But I don't see that happening this year.
Okay. Any other questions? Yep.
Quick question. I noticed early on in the piece that you showed a bit of a list of organisations that are involved on the Central Coast. I mean, I obviously take on board that this is the Urban Development Institute of Australia, but I'm also wondering whether there's any attempt to actually engage, say, maybe one of the some of the larger not-for-profits who actually look after some of the most vulnerable in our community, etc., in this type of environment, because I think sometimes that can really add, well, I believe it would add perhaps a different perspective sometimes to the work that you're doing, or add another perspective into it. And I noticed that because my background is in that sort of sphere, and I'm always very aware when things seem to be missing. Maybe it's not missing, you can tell me it's not, but I didn't see it.
Right. Well, so we're a membership-based organization.
Yeah.
Sort of welcome any group or organization that's involved in the development sector.
Yeah.
So we would welcome any groups who are interested in that.
Okay.
We do have a number, Pacific Link as an example of community housing providers. We have many community housing providers as our members as well.
Okay.
And
That's
a
good.
lot of consultants who do work for, the whole community, as it were.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
Yes, Anthony?
Yes, no problem.
Just comment, just in terms of the social outcomes as well.
Yes.
I think that's a bit that gets lost in process. We talk about everything else, servicing, the number of homes that we're trying to provide, what the road network's like, the ecology. We forget the social outcome. And it's not actually in the assessment process. There's nothing that you can put in an SEE that says, if we deliver this, we're getting 10 people off the streets. And I think that gets lost along the way with the amount of housing supply that we're trying to provide for you guys, members as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I might comment on that. The recently approved state significant development at Canmore, the Wyong Village, does have in the approvals 17% affordable housing, rental housing in that whole development. So do you see the percentages in these big developments going to be, looked at to bring those out and tell us how many providing?
I mean, members tell us they would like to get sort of between at least 10% affordable housing in there. Sometimes it becomes difficult to be able to achieve a feasible outcome on a site, the incorporation of affordable housing. Therefore, that's the reason for affordable housing incentives, planning control incentives that have been added by council. Try to add a little bit more build to the project that can then get delivered in the form of housing. That seems to have been producing some good outcomes. It's feasibility is always an issue. What can be delivered? How much does it cost to deliver something versus what is the market's ability or willingness to pay? You find those don't always marry up as well here on the Central Coast as we would like them to. There are a lot of instances where you need the project to stack up, but it's really only for like, you know, a 2-bedroom apartment over $1 million. That's not going to create an outcome for some people who really need it.
Yeah.
Which is why then in a lot of those projects would try to get more of that affordable housing built. I would encourage you, Ian at Pacific Link is a beautiful brain on all of this. And he'd probably
Yes.
love to come and present to you all on that. There's a lot of very complicated in trying to deliver that type of product.
It was Pacific Link's very much involved in the provision of social housing, but a lot of the other projects that have affordable housing often are aimed at seeking federal government financial support just because they want it in their project.
There has funding.
Yeah, they have funding, and that, yes, and that was actually a UDIA initiative at the federal level, working with the form of government there. But it's like all of these things, there's never enough money. And actually what we've seen, a lot of those half grants that have come through, I don't know if grants the right word, but anyway, the money that's flowed through, obviously it's gonna mostly all be down in Sydney. There's a few drips and drabs that come out into the regions. That seems to always be right.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Councillor.
Just a quick one through you, Mr. Chair, maybe a future agenda item. I'd like to see a paper or report or discussion around potential incentives around how we incentivize developers to allocate more housing developments. It's a model that's being used both in Australia and overseas. It's something that I know we've talked about previously, and with the appointment of the new director, it will be timely to have a discussion through this committee. But that's something that council wants to look at and encourage moving forward as well.
So I suppose the way to do that is put a notice of motion to the next Economic Development Committee meeting that can then go to the full council meeting and we'll discuss it then. Any other questions?
Look, I did have a half-formed question, so it's not really a question, but I just in that conversation about affordable housing and golf and it's, you know, driving along John White Way and you see a lot of apartments that are half built still. And I understand there's, you know, various issues, but do you have a sense of what's not working where those projects aren't getting finished, they're not getting occupied, or am I just being too impatient? Is it kind of
Is that the one on Georgiana Terrace? So John White Way.
Behind.
No, it's up behind, and I think there was some construction issues there. But even separate to that, there's other stuff as well that just seems to have sort of half built, and there's still not a lot of confidence that that's going to happen, I guess.
Yeah, every site has its own specific issues, so I wouldn't be able to speak sort of globally about that, but it typically comes down to, you know, there'll be some issue there. Or we're seeing a lot of insolvencies in the construction side right now, and that has impacted some of our sites here.
Okay.
So it's a tough time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. The peak body investment document that you held up, could you at some stage, have you got enough for the committee?
I brought the one, but I could send it electronically.
Have everyone seen the building blocks one as well?
I'll send this through.
If you send those two through, that'd be great. Thank you.
Elizabeth, if you want to send them to my email address and I'll circulate them.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
thanks for the opportunity, and please reach out anytime. We're trying to bring evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, everyone, move on to item 1.6, Economic Development Strategy and the Destination Management Plan. I invite Bill Smith, Director of Community and Recreation Services, to speak to the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to give you an update on where we're up to with the development of the EDS, DMP, we have proposed, you might see in your calendars, for another workshop to be held prior to the September Economic Development Committee to work through the feedback that we received from the industry and start to prioritise get the prioritisation right in the EDS before we start to sort of firm it up. There's two other pieces that we want to look at incorporating into the EDS. So you may remember back in the June committee meeting, we had a presentation on the accommodation futures. Visitor accommodation futures study. What we are looking at doing is taking out some of the actions or the barriers that were in that report, because it didn't necessarily address the barriers. If you may recall, it jumped across over to the nice shiny coffee sort of brochures. Take the barriers. Yeah, so do I. Take the barriers from that report that were specifically highlighted in the executive summary and build them into the economic development strategies as actions. So rather than it be a standalone that does nothing, we want to make it meaningful and useful and deliverable. So something that we can be accountable for as a council in delivering to overcome some of those barriers. The second thick piece of work that we will be bringing to the workshop in September, which will be really important to outline the hierarchy of documents as well, is we're just in the process, or we've just finished developing the draft major event strategy. So if you think about it from a hierarchical perspective, you've got your economic development strategy, which should be the motherhood strategy. Then you've got your destination management plan, which supports economic development. Then you've got your major events, which support tourism and hence economic development. So they're the three pieces that we want to link together, which haven't done before as a council. Hence the workshop is to take you through the draft of all three strategies and the linkages and start to distill the priorities in order for council to develop the action plans. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. So
what that means is, in terms of the timeline, is it pushes our timeline out a bit further. But the thinking behind that is we would rather develop a meaningful suite of documents that has tangible deliverables than rush something through that is a dust collector. What that means in terms of the timeline is that we'll have the workshop in September. We will have a full councillor briefing, so the whole of council briefing in November. We will have the draft documents ready then to go to the December council meeting for adoption to go on public exhibition as a suite.
Over the Christmas.
No, there's a blackout period. But if we get them adopted, then at the end of January, we can put on. It won't be a council meeting until February. So we can get them out at the end of January after all the public holidays.
When you say blackout, that's a mandated blackout, or just saying a practical.
Christmas bells going.
It's a period with community engagement where most councils do it, where you just say from this date in December, say it's the 15th of December.
It's just something, it's a protocol.
It's a protocol because people are overseas, people don't get to look at the documents, they're not interested, they're on holidays. So that's how it impacts on the timeline, which means it will come back off exhibition in February, come back to the committee to look at what further work needs to be done, and then go to council for full adoption, suggesting around March next year.
Thank you for taking that feedback. I think it's a great way forward. To you, Mr. Chair, I think it's an excellent recommendation, and I think the community will welcome a suite of really good connected documents, more so
With an outcome at the end.
They'll have an action plan. So the idea is that the strategy itself should basically be no more than a couple of pages. The action plan, which will come to this committee each month in terms of where are you up to with the deliverables. So we as a committee will be measuring all the deliverables and reporting to the community where we're up to.
Can I just ask, the September workshop, is that a councillor workshop or is that a different workshop?
It's the committee, Economic Development
Oh, right,
Committee workshop, and it should be a placeholder in all of your calendars.
and that will inform the whole council workshop.
Correct.
Yes.
So the one in November,
That's a whole of council.
yeah, so that's a briefing you mentioned. Is it a workshop or a briefing? I'm only asking whether the public would be there or not be there, because briefings
That's the difference.
gets confusing. That's,
We'll work that out.
It's a workshop.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
workshop.
It's a workshop.
We can,
Yeah.
as a workshop, I think it'll be better.
No, that's cool.
If we have to move things around from a priorities perspective.
Yep.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question? So sorry, just separate to what you've just had, just reading the report, or the report. Can I just ask, I would have hoped it probably both for economic development and tourism. I don't see the food sector in there. Is that captured or is that a part of what we're doing? Food industry and agriculture. I just can't see them mentioned anywhere.
Absolutely. So you'll see it when we get to the workshop and
Yeah.
we start to take you through the micro detail or the detail of it. At the moment, this is just really high level summaries of it.
That's okay.
In the September workshop, you will see all the detail.
Okay, and in terms of the stakeholders, again, very focused on business and economic stakeholders, are we also liaising with social and environmental and other stakeholders on this?
Some of them cross over, so some depending on the businesses. We've also been working with different parts of the industry. So like I said to you before, like we were just mentioning before, so Central Coast Industry Connect is one of the key groups that we work with. They've also have a great relationship with many of the food industries, and so they've been part of that development, giving us the very strong feedback around what's needed from the industry perspective. We've been talking to small businesses, so smaller business that are either a social, they might be running something that's more of a,
Your community.
oh yeah, and then we've had community pop-ups. We've been talking to people who have had, like I said, a small business, a larger business, a medium business, small to medium and larger businesses, but across different ranges. So it's not just necessarily with food. It's been people that have run, they might be doing an education program, or they might deliver an education service training program. They might have that in environmental, like, and I think there's some examples. I can give you a list of some of the people we have spoken to. I'm happy to do that. So I don't remember them off the top of my head.
So the stakeholder engagement's been
Pop-ups.
extensive.
Yeah.
We've had 2 community pop-up sessions at University of Newcastle.
Yep.
Campus at Arimba, Gosford Hospital campus. And the councillor workshop and the region-wide business survey that was distributed to 12,500, which would have captured
Quite a number of people, but it's quite a different grouping of businesses that are registered. So it's every business that's got an ABN here on the Central Coast. We've reached out to that broad group and we share that survey, and they've all probably. We had about, I think, over just on it was about 199 responses to that survey.
So what we
Quite a range.
can do for the September workshop is we can cluster out of the 12,500 into categories
Okay.
of businesses and groups that they were distributed to. Additionally, with the economic development strategy and the tourism industry databases, there was 14,226 businesses and establishments. So what we can do is
Great, thank you.
distill those down into categories for you.
Councillor Eaton.
Oh, yeah, just a comment. Seems to me that not all events fit within tourism. Some of them are community events. So as long as you've got a bit of distinction between major events, which clearly do create tourism or cater to tourism, and smaller community focused events that really don't have anything to do. I mean, for example, probably, Christmas carols at Tukley. I mean, people are there, they're not a draw by itself. So I just think you've got
That example, I opened that last year, so it's.
That's why it's called a major event strategy.
Okay,
So it's-
major events. I
we've
didn't
distilled-
that. Okay.
So for that purpose, I've asked to see if we could produce a bit of a graph about the hotel and accommodation percentages on the coast spread out over the 52 weekends of the year to see when we should be creating or encouraging major events in the downturns.
Johnny, I've had my commentary, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but it comes back to that commentary. We do a lot of analysis around economic development at the moment. Can we do some targeted analysis, Mel, about exactly that? So we hold these events, right? How does it impact our tourism and hospitality sector? What's the flow and impact? If we add 3 more major events, for example, what would be that spin-off benefit to the greater community? So that's the type of analysis I saw personally as part of this committee would like to see more of. That generic stuff's great. A lot of it we can get from ABS data and other places.
But I
But
think John was suggesting something different. I think what he was suggesting is that we fill the gaps where there is low economic activity.
Absolutely. And
oh, you said something.
to that point, that would be the target, was those low weekends, where we'd say whether it's 3 events or whatever. I mean, council won't be doing events. We would have to get the public in to, or organisations to actually run them and do them, right? But we would help
Yeah,
along.
and that's ideal because we'll be looking at the troughs and where we can actually plug in some improvements. And if you think about it, historically, that's how Vivid started. It was specifically started because May, June was the lowest time in terms of tourism in Sydney. And so, yes, definitely. Can I just guide you to page 14 in the business paper, which gives you a high level breakdown of businesses, the industries that were participated in the workshop. We'll distill it even further from there for the September workshop.
Or is that the transport and infrastructure skills and workforce? No, sorry. Oh, 9 businesses, 4 reps from local businesses, 2, is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so business chambers and the business networking clusters, they often have not-for-profits in there, a whole range of things. But we'll distill it further.
Yeah.
Director, back to the question about the survey and quite frankly, the lack of responses and the lack of finalising the survey by those that actually started it. On behalf of Councillor Lamont, she sent an email around regarding those issues. Can you comment?
Point taken that it was quite lengthy and there were a number of, a large volume of questions. So we are looking at distilling down the surveys. The other point that I recall she raised was there are a number of different organisation and peak bodies that do surveys, and why can't we capitalise on combining some of those? We will be looking to do that in the future. In terms of completion rate, there is an opportunity for us to offer or incentivise completion that may assist in us getting a higher completion rate moving forward. So there's 3 strategies that we want to put in place there. That is to shorten surveys, try and combine them where possible with things like Business New South Wales, who are running surveys, or the various chambers of commerce or the various other peak bodies, and see if we can harvest some of the data they get, or when we run our surveys is to look at keeping them very short, very succinct and incentivising to encourage completion. That makes sense.
Thank you. It does.
Just a quick one.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, Mr Chair, be careful about partnering with other organisations, especially if they're member-based organisations. The questioning from those organisations may be a little bit different to what we need as council as well. And I know you'll go through that process, but I know it seems like a way to streamline the whole process, but yeah, organisations sometimes have to put out surveys specific to their members. And although it may mention economic development, it may not be the information that our council needs.
And we would do a deep analysis of the intent of their surveys and their target audience to make sure. So we wouldn't do it just for the sake of piggybacking. We would look for really targeted partnerships.
Any other questions online? No. I'd just encourage all councillors to, I suppose, to put in their own recommendations to what they would want to see in the economic development strategy. I produced a 3-page, let's call it a framework of what I would suspect should be in that document, but I don't see the economic development strategy being a big document. I think things that fall out of it into actions will be the big document.
That's going to be the big baby.
So I've provided that to Mel, and that'll be part of the considerations as well. So I'd certainly encourage everybody to put something in.
Any that as an actions, just to trigger us all.
Yeah, any ideas, thoughts, if you can jot them down, that will help us distill, because a lot of the feedback we did get, and we had quite a good response rate from the councillors. We had 6 complete the survey, which was fantastic.
You did get mine, did you?
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry?
6 out of 15.
Yeah.
Mine. Well done.
We think that's good.
Yeah. We do.
We have a bad reputation.
We do.
Come on, I'd encourage everybody to provide feedback.
But there was some very strong themes that came out of all 6 responses, which was really great, because it means the thinking sort of is aligned with the direction that we have developed the document.
Okay.
Is it name and shame time? No.
Any other questions? Councillor Miller.
Chair, before we move on, I sent an email to the director this afternoon. It was interesting to read the New South Wales government has just released the New South Wales Investment Delivery Authority framework. And they put $17.7 million to set up this authority. And this authority is dedicated to delivering investment in New South Wales. Their threshold's really high. It's projects for $1 billion plus.
And we wanted an opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. They also allocated $80 million from the New South Wales Innovation, I think, Innovation Fund. I believe it's called. Sorry, Innovation Blueprint. I've asked the director to see if there's anything in our business development framework where we could look at maybe doing something similar on the coast. When you have a look at what they've established, it's a really great way to get multiple agencies starting to work together. We were doing that a number of years ago. We used to have a strategy on the coast called REDES, the Regional Economic and Employment Strategy. That was chaired by the Minister of the Central Coast. Both councils were around the table with that, as well as state government and federal government agencies. It goes back 15 years, and it ran for quite a long time. And it was held up nationally as a collaboration piece that other regions should look at. And it's just drifted away with Amalgamation Council and the New South Wales government move a lot of that back in-house. My concern with all the hard work that we're doing is we still don't have that coordinated response on the Central Coast, right? So council can do its best. We can get a really good strategy put in place. We're still missing that collaboration piece between all our agencies. There's a lot of talk around this region's concern with the Hunter Central Coast Development Corporation. People are now starting to talk about the appointment of a potential coordinator general again, bringing a focus back to the Central Coast. maybe this new framework is something that we could look at to see if it's relevant, and council could maybe lead that process. So through you, Mr. Chair, if there's an opportunity for this committee to be briefed forward about what potentially that may look like, if there's any applicable opportunity.
Exactly. This has only just happened today, so.
Having just received.
Short notice.
Yes.
I think
I just want to flag it with the
the
committee.
action will be for the director to have a look at it and send along any relevant information that the state put out. But certainly my first thought about it is we're going to have something here that links into the state organisation, because if they've got projects of $1 billion or more happening, I want to know if any of them can come to the Central Coast.
Well, I believe some of the projects they earmarked right on neighbouring borders. So it'd be nice if we get a slice of that.
Newcastle.
Lake Macquarie. So,
Okay, so,
You say it only came today. Is that the email from council?
no, that was,
no, it was released about 6 weeks ago, and I just found it by accident. And but it's something that when you have a read of what they've announced they're planning to do, it could be applicable to the coast and other regions. So,
Councillor Millen sent through a summary to us at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I hadn't seen it before.
To us being,
To,
no, to the committee?
no, just to Sue and myself.
I'm happy to forward to everybody else.
have action to councillor Mooland, forward the email to everybody on the committee. Any other questions on the strategy and the plan? Everyone happy? All good. Okay, thank you. So we've got a recommendation for a motion there. Anyone want to add to it or just move the recommendation on page 9? Just move the recommendation. Councillor Mooland, seconded. Councillor Smith. All those in favour? No hands, unanimous. Thank you very much. Move on to 1.7, progressing the Watervale Business Precinct standing item. I'd like to invite Luke Nichols, Director of Environment Planning, to speak to the report. Luke.
Councillor, 2 things. We've got a quick presentation for you, which we will do. But also, if you look at recommendation 3, should read May 2026. So we'd like to do it quickly if we can't go back in time.
Really?
Good
try.
Thank you.
All right, so purpose of this presentation is really just to contextualize what's being put in that report and hopefully give you a bit of background, a bit of information that you may not have had or that may have been missed from the previous reports in June. So the site that we're talking about today actually came into council's ownership around the 1970s when council compulsorily acquired the site for actually the airport lands. Subsequent to that, it's been used for a music festival, and then after that time, it's just kind of been unused land. So the purpose of this slide is to really show that what the site was and what it was acquired at 1975 is not the site that we're dealing with today. We're dealing with a very different site, with a very different legislation, with a different planning overlay, with different constraints. So it has changed over time. The uses have changed over time. And so we need to look towards the future and how we're going to develop that site and how it's going to work. So what would be important too is, I know this comes up in social media a lot, and there's a lot of people in the community that ask, you know, what is this circle? Yeah. And I'm sure even someone said it was maybe once used for a horse. It was actually
Horse
yeah.
training, yeah.
I think it was actually used for the Warnervale Federation Park, which was the country music festival.
Of UFOs, perhaps.
Yes, well, that one does come up on Facebook too. Very good. So it was used from 1975 to the 2000s as a music park. There was electricity provided. There was water provided at that time. They had some problems around the 2000s when they couldn't get the funding to put in on-site sewer. So basically that kind of fell away In 2000, in recognition of that, they did actually rename it geographically to the Warnervale Federation Park. So if anyone from the community comes to you and says, what is that ring? It was a music festival. So part of this site also has some planned strategic actions from council. One of those is the regional aquatic facilities and indoor courts. It is proposed through the Warnervale structure plan and the contributions plan to be located on this site. No due diligence has been completed as to how that looks or what that site allocation is. Through this process, that will come out about what that looks like and how that can be delivered through this process.
So just to clarify that, it's a recreational centre similar to the Peninsula PLC.
So what's the Warnervale precinct today? What does it sit? Where's its context? What's it doing? So obviously the site located down here, it's located near the airport, it's located near the WES, it's located near the M1, and it's located next to these new residential release areas of Warnervale. So it sits in a really great location to be developed. What that use looks like, we'll have to work that out through this feasibility process. The land behind it, the SP2 land, is proposed through the Airport Master Plan implementation action to actually be downzoned to C2. That's because it's environmentally constrained, can't be developed. So what does the site look like? It's not currently subdivided. What does that process mean? So on the left-hand side, this is what the site looks like when it was presented as part of the Airport Master Plan. It was multiple lots that kind of had pieces that went over each other. What council has done now is we have actually consolidated all those lots together, and that process is now complete by LRS. So that has completed. What the next step is, which will be due in August, is to excise the airport lot from the consolidated lot, which leaves a subsequent process to then subdivide out this Warnervale site after that process. So that subdivision of this site can only occur after the airport is excised. So that subdivision will be revealed through this feasibility process about what is the actual usable land and what should the subdivision of that site actually include. So the accelerated program looks at a 6 to 9 month timeline and covers 3 to 4 elements, which is a technical site assessment, a market analysis, and a financial and risk assessment. Basically what that does, it will produce a report back to you in May 2026 that says, these are the options, these are the potential costs of these options, and these are the potential outcomes. And from there, several decisions can be made. Everything.
Okay, questions, Councillor Smith?
In just reading the report, I didn't quite understand the commentary around the link road. Can you just explain what that was all about? I mean, is there been some change in decision about the link road or?
So the link road, which I'll just point here.
Yeah.
The link road doesn't currently have the SP2 zoning over it.
Right.
What happened back, I'll just pull up I don't think I have, okay, a bigger picture. What happened?
So can you just run your fingers along where the link road?
The link road.
Yeah, it's right along the railway line, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes from here.
Yeah.
And this is the bit you're going to talk about. You're referring to. So
Right, okay.
back when they made Albert Warner Drive in like 2010, I believe that road was constructed. They did a subdivision at the very edge of that road. You can see how it widens out. That was for the future link road provision. Now they've over allocated the space in that area and they don't actually need all that land to construct the link road, which leaves the question of, do we do a road closure, which is a 12 to 18 month timeline? Is it worth the cost and investment in that to get back the land in this site area? So that's what that refers to.
So is that where that roundabout is that goes nowhere?
Yes, correct.
And the road bit going nowhere, you're saying might not proceed, is that?
So I'm sorry, this picture is so small, so it's not very helpful to see how that like almost splays off.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole splay is not required. It's
Right.
only a small area of land.
Yeah.
But realistically, it should be looked at. Does it need to be closed and does it need to come into this lot? Is it of value? What value does it bring?
So that's part of that process that you're looking at? Okay, all right. Thank you, Tom.
Any other questions? No. So as Councillor Reid,
Not really directed relate to this, but it just struck me that other potential site that at least we should be probably talking to for the board centre would be the Third Eye Charmhaven thing where they're talking fairly significant sports facilities in that precinct. So at least it seems to me we're having a conversation with.
I'm a bit confused as this about this block of land.
No.
Yeah, so,
It's in terms of, there's another possible location for.
Relocating.
one of the, I suppose, the standing items for that piece of land has always been the contributions from Watervale people has been to develop the aquatic centre and the facility on that site. What Councillor Eaton is saying is that the Third Eye site in Charmhaven behind the RFS, and including the RFS, that's council land, could be a possibility of would maybe put it there.
If the RFS moves.
Well,
Stays there.
in that whole Third Eye development, they have schools, they have sporting facilities, they have, is it the ground they're putting in there is sporting fields. What Councillor Eaton's brought up is that the location or proposed location of the aquatic centre, etc., on that site,
Recreation centre.
recreation centre, call it by the right name, it may be a possibility of talks with the Third Eye people at Charmhaven
Instead of having the
instead of either or.
It's still close enough. It's still in that sort of greater Warnervale area.
It's right at the back of where everyone's.
so not having the industrial park.
Oh, no. It's
No, it gives you more viable land there.
only a small amount of land.
A small section of it.
Yes.
Sure. Because I don't think it was ever identified where it was going to go. I'm not saying it couldn't go there, but
It's an interesting thought. Which is, Labour Mora, it's screaming out for community facilities, so, having that facility. Bit close, yeah, it's located a little bit closer, Charmhaven.
Come out of all the developments. So just to clarify about the location, the development contributions that have come out of Hamlin Terrace, Warnervale, back of Arizona Road, etc., back onto the Charmhaven development. When you look at where it's proposed, if it was to go on this site, it is a fair way from where probably most of the money has come from in the contributions that are at the back of Hamlin Terrace, Wingara. But it's just a thought from one of the councillors. So a thought bubble.
yeah, thought bubble. I'm happy to say it's a thought bubble.
But it is relevant. So if you can take that on.
Part of the airport master plan, the use of the RFS site is proposed.
Yes.
Yes, so yes, it is tied together. The future use of that land is a
Keep options open, I suppose, based on that. Any other questions on Warnervale precinct? No, thank you very much. Okay, so we've got a recommendation on this. So we've got 3 points. Remember that the 2025 in point 3 has been changed to 2026. I'm a mover of that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Mooland, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Move on to 1.8, which is the air show update. I invite Luke Nichols, Director of Environment Planning, to speak to the report. Luke.
Councillors, we can answer any questions you have. We've been in contact with 3 operators, but at this stage we haven't secured an operator who wants to proceed with the air show. There's still discussions with 3 operators.
Okay, any questions?
Happy to move the
I just got not a question, but a statement that I know at the previous events, and probably for any event that air show goes on, the Air Force is one of the main contributors to that, and I understand that they've probably got to have a 6-month lead time. I think the timing was. Just want to make sure that that's been taken into consideration too for any timing of any of the work that's been done.
Councillor, I've got Chris Barrett here. I can probably give you a bit more
I'll
detail.
give you a little bit more depth.
Yeah, okay.
Just that obviously director's given you a pretty fair summary of where we're at.
Yeah.
So firstly, a little bit more fleshing out on the responses we received. We did receive a reasonably antipathetic, I think we would say, perhaps not very positive response from the existing operator, but we're trying to persuade the existing operator to continue to work with us because obviously he has a track record and he's very well established around Australia.
I'm just clarifying the existing operator.
Paul Bennett Airways, that shows.
Update, did he just take over management of Scone Warbirds and Scone
I
Airport?
can't comment on that, I'm not aware of that.
Okay,
Sorry, did he run the last one?
yes,
Yes,
On
he
the
did.
last.
that's what I wanted to clarify.
He's also a participant in the Avalon Air Show. And as a result of the unfortunate incident at the last air show, he's been temporarily excluded from the air show. So there's obviously some issues about the conduct, but I'm assured by the operator of the Avalon Air Show that the exclusion is temporary, that there's an expectation that he'll work with them again in the future. But obviously, with all these sorts of events where there's an incident properly investigated, they involve the CASA, want to have confidence that, it's these events, that there's no unnecessary risk to life or limb. The Pacific Air Show was the second of the parties that we contacted. They're the conveners of the Gold Coast, which is the biggest consumer event in Australia. They also do air shows in the US. They had the unfortunate incident of they literally had their show rained on this year and they had to cancel what is the biggest consumer air show in Australia. And they're taking stock. So while we've encouraged them to talk with us at this stage, I'm appreciative that time is of the essence, but equally they are focused on their core business. And while I'm hoping to get a response from them, and I have followed up with them on several occasions over the last month, I'm also mindful that there is such a thing as if you pester people, they say, why do you need to rush us? So I think it's more important to, softy, catchy monkey. And they are a really good operator and they do bring really good activities. Again, they may be a little bit high end. The third operator and the one that's probably the dominant operator in Australia is AMDA, which is the operator of the Avalon Air Show and of the International Defence Air Show. And they took over a number of community events in New South Wales, including the Illawarra Wings Down Under, which was probably the premium air show in New South Wales that runs on a regular basis, because there are other air shows, but they tend to be, like there's a great one at Newcastle, I think it was 24, but it was a one-off. And what most people find is that air shows are fabulous crowd pleasers, but they're very expensive to operate. There are incredible logistic challenges. And generally with an air show, unless you have a very large parking capacity, you run into a whole lot of logistical issues. And they've even had that at Illawarra, which is probably, in my mind, a very professional centre. I've had the good luck to talk to the Chief Executive of AMDA, who is the former Chief Executive of Avalon Airport. I've spoken to him today. Took me through for half an hour. AMDA, which, as I said, would have been a fabulous, if you like, partner with us in that event, has made a strategic decision in the last 2 weeks to withdraw from community events, which is a great disappointment because obviously it just means that the field was a little more wide open. They are negotiating with the transfer operation for the Illawarra, which, as I said,
they were really obviously disappointed at the loss of their support. And that's just come public, so it wasn't aware, we weren't even aware of it at the time of the last economic development. And there we've withdrawn from another community event in New South Wales, which is tomorrow. So I've got to be honest with you and say that there's a very small field of operators with whom we're talking. And it's a very crowded calendar already. But I have to at the same time, and in defence of council's standing position, which is that we have to do things in the right order. Council takes on a substantial risk in hosting an air show at a council-owned airport. And frankly, unlike some of the, don't misunderstand me, but Tim Hop councils out west that run shows on very small airfields through community groups that have no capital, we're an $8 billion organisation. And if we were to do anything that was substantially, shall we say, imprudent, just like a big mining organisation, people would take us to the cleaners. But we do have to be reasonably careful in who we operate. However, I'd have to say that there's a good operator with whom we're hoping to deal, and we are reaching out to that good operator. In answer to your question about the defence, about securing the fence, I think we can't really offer the defence. Defence won't come in on a deal until they know who the operator is. And we have to secure that operator. So I'm sorry if I was a little bit.
Councillor Neil.
You say,
Neil, 1 minute.
Look, sorry, have you finished?
No, I just apologise for going on perhaps 1 minute too long.
Look, I realise my position or my lack of enthusiasm about this is well known, but it just seems like we're putting an awful lot of effort into something that really doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And I'm not sure how willing the committee is to entertain this, but I would probably like us to recommend to press pause on this for the time being, even because I think we've got a resolution to say go ahead with it. And I just think if staff are working to that resolution, we're spending a lot of time for not a lot of benefit at this point.
It sounded to me like you have been talking with the three, one's dropped out.
there's only
And
two
still
left.
got the other two, right? So maybe we'll make that decision at next meeting. But I think you're still having some questions or getting some answers.
Obviously guided by committee and by council. I'm only working to your instructions. At this stage, there are parties that are in the room still. And if council is of the view that it would like to run the air show, it's my job to give them the best chance.
Could I just suggest we defer all action for 12 months even? I mean, I'm sorry, but I just thought that we got a very sort of circular point about risk, and it just seems we're spending time on something that may not be the right time to put those resources into.
Councillor Neil.
Where I was just wanting to confirm there's actually only two people still in the race, and they don't seem very strongly in the race. It does sound a bit like flogging a dead horse, but I would like to be absolutely certain before we abandon it that there is not a possibility. So I would prefer that we wait till we say continue on, but if we don't have really any progress by next month or our next meeting, that we probably pull the bill.
I would agree. Councillor Miller.
I'm supporting you.
Online, no one's got their hand up. No. Any other questions? No. Thank you. Okay, so we do have the recommendation there on page 26. Understanding Councillor Smith's desire, but anyone want to move that recommendation?
Well, really,
And it is a standing item, so we'll be back at next.
Yeah, I think I would probably like to say that recommendation with the proviso that that the committee make a final decision about whether to proceed at the next.
Some words for
With the provision that the committee makes a final decision about whether to proceed.
We changed decision to recommendation.
yeah.
Councillor Neil, should that recommendation come from staff? So no.
Well, it's for us to make the decision.
Yeah.
They make a recommendation.
I think staff should provide an update, just like they have tonight, and then the committee will make a recommendation.
I think they probably will have a recommendation.
How are the words?
Second.
They moved, councillor Neil, seconded councillor Moreland. Are we okay? All right. Okay, no other discussion. I'll put that recommendation or the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. So we're on to 1.9, which is from myself. I was reading, for some reason, the Gold Coast Bulletin last week. The Gold Coast Council has put out a, I suppose it's the report on the Gold Coast Marathon that they run over their weekend. And the economic benefit to the Gold Coast on that event was $40 million. I thought, well, we should be able to get a bit of this. So with the Beta Bay, they started their first marathon this year. And there's a new running festival for the entrance in November. But they're only running on one day. And generally, the majority of people are locals that go and do the run. So what I was thinking of, if we start to talk to the local organisations that do these things, and see if we can't find a way to have a weekend running festival that will bring in a whole lot more money than it is at the moment.
In one of the down seas.
In one of the targeted downturns in our economy. So I rang the head of the Terrigal Trotters, and they were very keen to hear that we might do something like that. I sort of tempered the discussion by saying, look, we're only going to talk about it tonight. Something may come out of it. We may find a way forward, and we would come and talk to the relevant organisations on the coast that could be party to that. So I just want to put it out there that this would be a possibility of one of the major events that we could create and bring along the community organisations on this journey. Now, turns out that it's not only the runners that we might be able to do that, but cyclists also. So I might hand over to Councillor Crowley to discuss what she's been talking with community organisations.
Councillor Moreland and I've had a couple of conversations now with a group, they call themselves sea bugs, don't they? But
It's a CC bug.
yeah.
CC, sorry.
Anyway,
CC bug.
they're bicycle riders, and they're people that just love riding bikes and that sort of thing. And one of the members there has has a very special bike, which has a seat on the front of it for other people to ride, particularly disabled people. And they're a lovely organisation of people, I think, because they offer to take disabled people for bike rides and things like that. And they very generously do it all pretty much for nothing, I think, don't they? One fellow who must be enormously wealthy, I think, has about 10 of those bikes. Yeah, and they're worth 20-something thousand each or so. So, and he lends them out to people. So they were asking us if we could put it to council to perhaps sponsor them in having a bike weekend and advertise it, and have people come and enjoy riding the bike, because they're about, bike riding and using the lovely pathways that we have got with cycleways. So they would be someone, they would dearly love to do something like that. So they would be an organisation that would be very keen.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we can build on that and make it maybe a bicycle weekend with the mountain bike riders, as well as, if you use the bike paths all around Tuggerah Lakes, That could be a big draw and have it over a weekend where people can come from outside the area and stay on the weekend.
The initial thoughts was to run a pathway from Tucley down to the entrance. In that way, there'd be no traffic issues. It'd be promoting a big piece of infrastructure that council should be really proud of.
The lovely one that goes up to Tucley.
That's
So
Yeah, all right, yeah.
I just want to put it out there that we talked about major events and what we're going to be doing with them in targeted times of the year. There is 2 reasonably doable events. And I suppose from this committee's point of view and the major event strategy is how do we encourage events like this? And what would be the process on trying to do this? And maybe we make the running marathon or running weekend a bit of a guinea pig to see what we would need to do, and maybe run a workshop and invite those community groups in to get their feedback. I mean, you know, apart from you running marathons, I don't think anybody else is.
Can I just make a quick comment? I've had a chance to participate in a lot of these races globally, and people travel globally up to these events. The sports tourism market is massive. And if we take your example, it's bike weekend. Sports tourism, people are traveling all over the state. And if you make it over a weekend, people stay, go to restaurants and cafes. So I think when we first talk about these events, we think about a couple hundred people getting up on their bikes. But if you promote it well and it builds over time, word gets out. You may have heard there's the Sydney to Wollongong bike ride. That started out with 100 people, and now it's a major event for Sydney and for Wollongong. So I think we need to have some vision. I think it's great to get people out there in the environment. If you do it the right way, it also showcases the Central Coast.
Yeah, and put it in context, I talked to one of the Terrigal trotters, and he took his whole family to the Gold Coast for a week leading up to the marathon, and he spent $1 squillion, right? And that's just one person. But the Gold Coast Marathon is 30,000 people. Beta Bay is 4,000 people. 30,000 people, and most of those were people that came from outside the Gold Coast. Our 4,000 Beta Bay is probably everybody that lives in Woy Woy and Gosford, so local.
John, just a
Very done
previous comment, I've done Beta Bay too. We're impressed, don't worry. No, don't be impressed. Please don't be impressed. But I get the train down to Woy Woy early in the morning. I run the race and get on the train from Gosford and come back home.
And you don't spend any money down
I
there.
don't spend any money. There's no.
You're not letting it. Councillor Smith.
It's not allowed.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Look, I think it's a great idea. I was actually going to say, can we expand the consideration to the triathlon? Because there's a whole circuit for these things. And I think one of the first things is to look at those dates, those regular dates, and see where the gap is, not just for us, but for those circuits where everybody goes to. But equally, triathlon.
I'm sorry.
Go, Councillor.
I was just saying, so I was particularly impressed with the idea of people who are disabled being able to ride a bicycle. I just thought that was fabulous, and I think it's a really good thing. I've never heard of it before, so.
And Helen and I actually spoke to a person that is blind, legally blind.
Yes.
And just the freedom it gave that
Oh.
person. I'm sure there's a staff member of this person as well over there. But it just changed this person's life.
Changed his whole life.
So,
His whole life.
Okay.
Other big runs include people with disabilities in terms of family and friends supporting them to walk, run, roll.
incredible.
It's not just marathon, it's 10Ks, 3Ks, 1K, all of that over the weekend. Director.
Can I suggest that we step through the process, starting with looking at, as Councillor Smith said, the peaks and troughs between current events and our peaks and troughs in tourism season. We step through the process. If you look at the successful marathons that are run in Australia and around the world, they've started smaller and built on them with building blocks. And I think we just need to understand the steps in the process before we commit council.
After that, the Tour de France, okay?
If you look at the history of Tour de France, it started with one leg some decades ago.
Yeah, just to Councillor Smith's comments, but the Tour de France, that is the tape.
You started it.
All right.
Yeah.
Where they're going to Australia and it goes through regional towns, right? So.
The Tour de Moi.
Why not?
I
Okay,
think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's just step through that sweet spot.
Yeah.
we already have the major event process strategy. I don't think that we need anything here tonight. I just want to start the conversation around some specifics. Everyone happy? Any other questions online? No? Everyone good?
Questions on this item or anything else?
Any other questions or items you would like to put?
I just wanted to raise in particular, I know it's been raised before. I drove into Gosford for an event Friday night, drove into Baker Street car park and had to drive out again because it closes at 8 o'clock. And I just can't see how ludicrous it is that we're running around saying, let's create a night economy. And you can't actually park in the council car park on a Friday or Saturday.
Oh, we had a resolution to address
Well,
that.
we have apparently this issue about the paying technology of some sort, but I think
Good lights.
So we're out to market at the moment for, out to tender for new technology that will enable the car park to operate outside of the current hours.
Can you explain that to me? Why technology is required to keep the, just don't get it.
I can't answer you in detail, but my understanding is the technology that we have is outdated and it takes humans to actually operate it outside of hours. Is that right? We're looking for automated technology where you don't need human intervention to run the car park.
Well, unless you actually just leave it open. I mean, there is some argument that if you want to encourage people to come in at night, that maybe outside hours, say after 6 o'clock on Friday and Saturday, that you do it and you don't charge people, so you can just leave the gates open and you don't need someone to operate it.
And Terrible's open.
Sorry?
Terrible's opening.
There's lots of facilities do that. So
Westfield even does that.
Sorry, Director, I don't expect you to answer on the spot, but do you want to have a think about that? Because how long is it going to take to do this technology?
Director Nichols will take that.
Oh, sorry.
If you want to, we'll take that on notice. I mean, there's a lot happening at the car park. There's all sorts of changes with the technology and the operations. A bit longer. So, we can come back with more detail if you'd like to.
That would be great, thank you.
I think especially for weekends is what you're looking
Yeah,
at.
Friday and Saturday night.
At the time that Councillor Neil's going, that would be best.
No, I just thought it was so ridiculous because I didn't realise it closed. And to think we're talking about encouraging people to come into Gosford and revitalising it.
Did you go to the railway car park?
They tucked up rent.
Okay,
They just parked on the street.
any other issues to bring up? Any other questions? No, thank you. I will close the meeting at 6:28 PM. Thank you very much.